I am Jimbo Paris, and you are listening to The Jimbo Paris Show. All right, what's up, everyone? This is Jimbo Paris here. Welcome to The Jimbo Paris Show. And today we have Natasha Miller, and she is CEO of Entire Productions. And essentially, she's focused on kind of going out and helping businesses scale, grow, and get larger, and sort of to just improve the entire work environment in general. So let's see what she has to say.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a lot to say.
Okay. Let's get started. So can you tell me who you are, what you're about, and what your message is?
Sure. I am Natasha Miller, as you said. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Grew up in Iowa in the middle of the country. And I've had my company, my core business, Entire Productions, for over 20 years. We're an event and entertainment production company, and we work with companies you may have heard of like Salesforce and Google and Apple and Facebook and LinkedIn, et cetera, on their big, like bombastic, really fun, over-the-top events. Lots of entertainment, light, sound, action. And I also love to help entrepreneurs scale and grow their businesses efficiently by at least 50% or more.
Mm. How do you do that?
Well, you have to have a good product or service to start with, right? And you have to have buyers and figure out what your market fit is. So if you're there already, that's great. But in order to scale and grow your revenue and your profit, you have to have like incredible systems and processes that are documented and that are consistent throughout your entire workforce. You have to really know how to, it's an art and science of adding people to your organization, sourcing and qualifying them, interviewing them, developing them, and making sure that you have a succession plan, especially right now with hiring is so difficult to do right now with the great resignation and inflation. So you have to really stand out with your core values and your culture. And those things aren't just, your logo and, free lunch on Fridays. There's a lot to it.
How did you learn all this?
Well, for the first 12 years, by trial and error and making it up as I go and learning the hard knocks of not having some of these things in place. And then in 2015, I took an entrepreneurial master's course at Babson College. And have since studied at Harvard and MIT, again, entrepreneurial master's courses with incredible other entrepreneurs that are in their business doing the same scaling and growth. And that really just has popped me up huge amounts to the point where I think after 2015, our business it grew by 65% and did so year after year. So we were on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in America 3 times in a row. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the short answer is I did the work, finally.
You said finally. So you never did it at first?
Mm-mm. I was winging it, and I was proud of being an entrepreneur that didn't have an advisory board or a lot of business skills or business education. And honestly, I was at about 1.5 million in revenue when I had the aha moment. Also, I think I was sort of ready mentally and emotionally to take on the business of working on building a foundation, because those first 12 years of my business, Entire Productions was more of a lifestyle business. And it was paying, for my rent and my bills, but also supporting my performing career as a professional jazz artist. So, I had different goals and different things that I was really laser focused on. So when I got that aha moment in 2015, I'm now addicted to learning.
So you mentioned this interesting term, lifestyle business.
Mm-hmm.
What's the actual definition of that?
A lifestyle business is a business where there's not really enough margin to add employees to scale or grow. So scaling and growth would mean like operating in different cities or major markets, having like boots on the ground and in various places. And, it's really a skinny margin business. It's smaller. There's nothing wrong with it, by the way. There's nothing wrong with it. But also in those lifestyle businesses, you're an employee of your own business. You're working day to day in the business. Whereas as an entrepreneur with a scaling and growing business, I currently only work on the business 20% of my time and not in the day to day. I'm not doing sales. I'm not talking to clients. I'm not doing the heavy lifting. My team is. That's the only way you can scale.
Interesting. Yeah, so what you were saying was a lot more similar to freelancing, right? Kind of.
You could freelance. I mean, that's not what Entire Productions did, because if that were so, then my business would be just me performing with, as a classical violinist, which I am as well, and as a jazz vocalist at people's events. For my lifestyle business, I was probably bringing in $300,000 worth of business, and my gross profit was maybe 50% of that or less, and you subtract your overhead costs and all of that. And what's left is the money you get to take home to pay your bills and all of that stuff. And so at that point, it wasn't just me performing. I was sending out other artists and of, every genre and every discipline. It just wasn't big enough to afford, not enough revenue, not enough profit to afford to hire people to work for the company.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I was just saying freelancing. I wasn't trying to backtrack either. All I was saying was generally with freelancing businesses, they tend to do what's similar to lifestyle. It's usually just one person running the business. Mm-hmm. They do their own thing. Maybe they're a digital, like a graphics arts designer, mm-hmm. and then they have their life on the side. A lot of freelance websites do that now, I think. So that's what lifestyle business sounded like to me. Quite interesting, though. Quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you begin hiring people and expanding your business?
At first, I was really hesitant to dip my toe into the commitment. And I had interns and I had part-time people. So, I really wasn't committing to them long term. When I started hiring people, I think it was probably 2013, I had my first full-time employee. I did not know what I was doing. I was worried that I wasn't going to make payroll. I didn't know how to interview them. I didn't know how to develop them. I didn't know how to manage them. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't a really good situation to be in. And as the years went along, when I started hiring more people, I really still was doing it by gut. And now I have a pretty formal scorecard that puts together the thought leadership of Jeffrey Smart, who wrote the book Who, which is a hiring sort of manifesto, along with the tools of EOS Traction, which is an operating system for businesses. And I use the same scorecard for every person and ask the same questions. So I'm trying to interview apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. If you ask one candidate that's going to be an account executive one set of questions, you're going to get those answers. And then you ask the next candidate, or you don't ask them those questions, you ask different ones, or just kind of have a conversation. How are you going to measure them against each other? Of course, gut instinct, personality, culture fit, those things matter, but I've really studied how to find the right fit.
And with right fit, you mean the employee to the business or the employee to the employee?
Well, I mean, the employee to the business. Is it a right fit for both of us? Is it the right person in the right seat that has capacity? Do they honor and embody our core values? It's kind of an intense process. It's very different than what I did before I learned how to do this. And now my hiring choices are working out much better. They're staying longer. I'm not firing them. And it's just a much more pleasant way of being.
That's good. People don't like being fired. So
I don't like firing people either. It's not fun.
what were some of the challenges you went through?
In the business?
Yeah.
I mean, I think any entrepreneur would say the biggest challenge that they have in their business is the people. And that's because we can't be programmed, right? We're sloppy, messy, emotional people, and we have our own desires and wants. So I think, building my business, that was the hardest. I bootstrapped the whole time. So I think we did better without funding because we were scrappy with it. Our biggest challenge happened in 2020. I don't need to spell it out for you, but people did not get together and do in-person events. So my multi-million-dollar profitable business went to zero. I think that was my biggest challenge ever. And we revamped it and started doing virtual events.
What was the first thought that came to your head when that happened?
That I'm going to be homeless. I didn't take into account all of the thought leadership, information, abilities that I had. I just kind of went right back to, honestly, when I was delivered to a homeless shelter at 16 years old on Christmas Day by my mom and dad. But that feeling didn't last forever, obviously. But that was my first thought.
But it never came true. So how did you overcome that?
Well, I think, a lot of people talk about resiliency and that being very important in life, and it certainly is. But I know for sure it's not enough to be resilient. You really have to be relentless in the pursuit of your dreams and your goals and getting you from where you were to where you want to go. And that is a natural instinct within me. I'm my best self in a challenge after, the scary part subsides. And I'm a really, really creative person. And I'm not shy, and I have a lot of confidence. So when I let all of that, fear, I put it to the side, and I just got to work on developing a way out of the hole. And we ended up producing over 200 events on virtual platforms at the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm. So you not only know how to scale, grow, and optimize, but you're also adaptable as well. So
yeah,
that's good to know. So when it comes to all of this, I think we should get to the general question now. How do you scale, grow, and optimize a business? How do you teach people to do that? The same way you've learned how to do that?
I really I teach a course. It's called Beyond Your First Million. And I walk the students through the basics, even though you may have them down. It's always good to go back over them and look at what your customer value proposition is, who your customer base is, who's your ideal avatar. Then we look at selling points, pricing, the psychology of it. We definitely get into systems and processes and make sure that not only we're teaching it to entrepreneurs, but they're doing it while we're teaching it. So that's not just a theoretical thing. Then, of course, we teach about hiring and developing and firing. And, it's it's everything I learned on my own, as well as at Babson and MIT and Harvard. And it makes me feel so good to impart this information to people, especially people that are hungry for it. I wish that I was hungry for it and aware of it, of the opportunities way before I was, but that's my path and that's my journey, and it's okay. I'm not really super regretful, but it lights me up like no other to have people go, oh my God, that's how you do that? Thank you. And then seeing the difference it has made in their companies.
So what are some of your best success stories that touch you personally?
For my core business?
For the teachings, you've given out.
Yeah. So I had a friend over 11 years ago who was making maybe 125, maybe 150,000 a year selling dental supplies and not doing anything. She would just sit on the couch because her dental, her clients had been built over years and they were just reordering. So she really didn't have to do much. She was depressed. She was unsatisfied with her life. And I didn't know it at the time that I had this gift and this ability, but I said to her, if you had to choose anything you wanted to do with your life, anything, what would it be? And she said, I want to open a holistic, organic pet food supply company business. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was not really into pets at that time. I kind of am now. But I did a lot of market research for her. I wrote her business plan for her. It wasn't a skill and a talent that she had, but I wanted to really, basically I pushed her up the mountain, informed her and educated her, and then I kicked her off to fly on her own. She's had that business for 10 plus years, and it had made millions of dollars over the course of its life. She was happier. She really was like living life, and she just made an exit. So that's pretty cool.
When you help people, what do you look for as the end result?
For me, the satisfaction and the reflection of the person learning, looking at their eyes become brighter and happier and more content. And it's definitely me helping them with their legacy. And there's power in that, hearing from them one-on-one, hearing from them, when they're writing reviews or testimonials. It's pretty cool. And I know that information that they're getting from me will be passed on to their friends and colleagues, perhaps. And I just enjoy being part of bettering the world in the way that I can do it, that I can contribute.
And when you do all of this, where do you think this has helped your business to grow as well?
Well, with Entire Productions, my core business, it's a completely separate endeavor to my teaching other entrepreneurs. But if I'm teaching other entrepreneurs, I'm also taking courses myself with, 7 and 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. And the thought leadership is so high that it can't help but to seep into any of my businesses. And then when you're teaching someone, you can learn from them just as easily as they're learning from you on different things. They can also help reframe ideas that you thought to be absolutely so. And that's, I think, a great way to look at what you've been doing and measure. Is that what we should be doing going forward? Or is this person's idea something you should consider?
And usually, is it something you should consider?
Sometimes moving by like a micro movement within the idea is bettering it. You don't have to completely transform the thing that you were doing to the person's idea.
Okay. And you're an Iowa native, right?
Yeah. So
how was it like building a business in Iowa? Getting the legal contracts, all those other things?
Yeah, I didn't I didn't have the most legal business in Iowa. I was doing sort of a freelance sort of thing. And it wasn't until I moved to San Francisco Bay Area that I really, had a business license, was paying proper taxes, had overhead, a rented office and such. So I really can't answer that question about being in Iowa.
And when it comes to, so you mentioned entire productions is more about design and event organizations, those type of things. But then you have a separate business focused on teaching people. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have a separate business teaching people, entrepreneurs, to scale and grow their business. I work with people that have like 250,000 in revenue up to about 6 or 7 million. And then I also am teaching a course called Memoir Sherpa to help entrepreneurs get their life story down into a book to help other people in the world of entrepreneurship. I just released a book that is now a Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestseller. It just won its 6th literary award. And the relationships and the connections I'm making with the people reading it are so much more deep than had I written a topic book or a how-to book, which I still will do. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just see the power in writing a memoir, and it's become a passion of mine.
So writing as a whole, would you consider yourself a natural writer? Do you enjoy authorship and publishing books? How was it like publishing your first book?
It was a lot of work. I'm a fairly good writer. I'm a fairly good copywriter. I was a songwriter, so I wrote songs in prose that were appropriate for songwriting, but I am not a fiction writer. And to write a very good memoir that people want to never put down, it really has to read like a work of fiction. I'm not saying you fictionalize any of the contents, but the way that you show how you're feeling instead of telling how you're feeling is really important. I don't have that skill. And let me say this in a different way. I don't have that skill to be consistent throughout the whole book. So I found an incredible editor who has that skill. And my book is an incredible read. People are saying, everyone's saying, I read the first line and I couldn't put it down. Now, I will say this. I did write the first line. It had nothing to do with the editor. I wrote the first few paragraphs, but I couldn't keep it going, right? And he really helped me do that. It was so much fun. It was so much work. I want to take away some of that work and pain and anguish from the people that I'm teaching. So I have a system that I use to teach people how to do it. Like all the things that I wish I had done that I didn't do, also all the things that I did do that worked really well.
Interesting. And you're a best-selling author, so you must have gotten good at this somehow, right? Not fiction, but something else.
I know how to find what I need to get to the next spot. I know now how to find the people, the assets to get me from where I'm at now to where I want to go. I think that's my biggest skill.
We're talking a lot about people here, and kind of what I'm thinking here too is that you also own a podcast called Fascinating Entrepreneurs. So what types of people do you bring on that podcast?
Yes. So I have these requirements. They have to be fascinating people to me, or their business be fascinating, and hopefully both. Okay. So that's number one. I interview people that do $1 million in revenue, annual recurring revenue or more. And I like to interview people that have teams, like full-time employees, W-2 employees, because we're really talking about legacy, building futures for other people, core values, culture. And if you're a business coach or you're a freelancer, you're really only kind of in your own world. And yes, you may have some 1099 employees or contractors, but it's not the same. So those are like the top things that I'm looking for in entrepreneurs. And I ask some hard questions of them. I learn a lot from them. And I think the listeners are, holding on to my guests' sort of every last word, because sometimes I ask, what is the toughest challenge you're working on right now? Yes, you have like a $10 million business and life seems like amazing, but I know there's something going wrong. because this is life. And so what is it? And then I also talk about what their number one strategy for growth that they're doubling down on is, to help other people consider those strategies.
So when it comes to strategies of growth, what do you think are some of the most basic strategies you teach to your clients generally?
I mean, again, I'm just going to go right back to it. If you don't have a good culture and good core values, and you don't even know what that is and how to develop them, you need to study that. And if you don't have your processes down in a system or systems, you have to do that. Like, there's no shortcut. The shortcut to scale and growth, and the shortcut to happiness, and the shortcut to everything is do the work, do the learning. And that's what I teach. And it's the thing that actually works.
And what are some of the mediums you use to teach this? You're a coach or a counselor?
I mean, I'm probably I don't ever refer to myself as a coach. However, I do coach, right? But it's not my profession. I have developed a course that is, really dynamic, and it's taking real life, like you're doing this in your business as we're learning, right? You're not just learning and then you go back and you think about what things you want to do. Like, we're really working on the person's business. So it's like consultant, coaching, teaching.
Okay. And what types of mediums do you use to teach? Do you use single coaching or group coaching, or
mostly group?
Blogs?
Yeah, I think the group coaching is really great because of the peer learning and the camaraderie in the group. I am doing one-on-one coaching at a very much higher level, monetary investment, to save my time and to allow me to do all the things that I'm doing, which is a lot currently. But I do think, I love peer learning myself as a student. So that is my chosen.
Oh, and sorry, what is peer learning?
Peer learning is like if you're in a group of entrepreneurs learning how to write your memoir, instead of one-on-one with me, you're then showing each other your writing, asking each other questions, getting to know each other, learning from your peers.
That's quite interesting. Okay. And how successful is that? You obviously do it, so it must be, but what have you first noticed with peer learning?
The exponential growth. If you imagine you're learning from one person, you're getting their perspective, their experiences. But if you're learning with a group of 12, or I was just at MIT in Boston last week with a group of 55 successful entrepreneurs. I think the highest revenue business was $300 million revenue, right? There's some stuff to learn from those people, and they don't even have to be in your industry to learn from them. So I would rather be in a group of 55 people that had incredible ideas than just learning from one person. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would too. So talk a lot about being relentless. What's the difference between relentlessness and resilience?
So resiliency is, you're at whatever level. Something happens, typically pretty negative, and you drop down to whatever level, right? And resiliency is being able to get yourself back up to benchmark, right? And so it's very important that you can be resilient and not just wallow in your grief forever or put your head in the sand and wait for things to, subside. Those are inactive things, right? But to be relentless is to get to that benchmark, be resilient, and then launch yourself and don't ever stop. You have to be diligent. You need to be disciplined. You have to have laser focus. That is being relentless and tenacious.
Okay, interesting. And as we continue going forward here, you're a jazz vocalist and a trained violinist.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you're a jack of all trades.
Yes, but I would say this, I do the things that I love and I do the things that I'm good at, but because of my personal life situation, I think I've had to monetize or make into a business anything that I was good at in order to survive. And now it's just second nature.
Okay. So do you think the singing and the music kind of carried over to your creative ability as well?
Absolutely. I thought I would only be a performer. That's what I thought I was put on the earth for. That was my greatest talent. If you would have told me when I was younger, I'd be doing what I'm doing now, that wasn't within reach. I wasn't even in the viewfinder. So, Entire Productions was built completely around my performing career. And then I started booking other people instead of me being the talent. Yeah. So yes, I think, I was creative. I was going to be creative no matter what I did, but it certainly informed me of Entire Productions.
You still play instruments and sing?
I do. Mm-hmm.
I
was going to say, I just did my book launch at the San Francisco MoMA Theater with a 5-piece band where I read some excerpts of the book and then played bits and pieces of the music that went along with those excerpts. And for the Audible version of my book, which is called Relentless, Homeless Teen to Achieving the Entrepreneur Dream, it also has my music recordings woven in the entire narration, which I did. And I will be putting it up for Grammy consideration for this year.
Why?
Why not?
That's pretty interesting. Okay. And my thing is, why do you play music? Is
that is something from the heart. It's how I meditate. It's how I journal, although I also journal. It's how I communicate my emotions. It's how I really stress and anxiety. It is how I enjoy and interpret different things going on in life. So it really is my outlet, my creative outlet.
So when we're focusing on employees and the relationships between employees, what level of impact do you think emotions play?
I mean, I think emotions you have to pay attention to them. And for me, thankfully, I think that I'm very empathetic. I'm also open to being empathetic, not just to my employees, but to my vendors and to my clients. And when something arises where, people are knocking up against each other, my first instinct isn't to blame. It's to think, what is going on in their life situation that is making them react this way or act this way? And having empathy for what I come up with, I think is really important to have.
So you would consider entrepreneurs to build empathy a lot more? Do you think most entrepreneurs have empathy?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a part of your growth as a person to find that part of you and be open to it. And then if you add on to the entrepreneur part of being a person, I think that entrepreneurs should tap into their empathy. It's only good. It's only going to be good for them and the business and the people. If you're not being empathetic and you're not paying attention, it's definitely going to hurt your company in the long run somewhere.
How did you learn that?
Life and School of Hard Knocks.
Hmm. Oh, I was just interested to know, because did you ever have any experiences with that, or any interesting?
I always do. I mean, if you are open, then you understand what your employees are going through. And if you're having a challenge with a vendor and client, then you communicate with them. Then hopefully they'll respond with some data points, right? With some explanation or what have you, so that you can get a better understanding for it. And, I embody this in my company, and I hope that it's rubbing off on my employees so that when they're frustrated with their vendors or their clients, that they take more of the approach that I do. If I ever hear about it, I always suggest, what's going on? What do you think is going on? If you don't know, maybe ask.
If you don't know, maybe ask. So that takes a different set of skills. That takes honesty and sort of the ability to then be vulnerable too.
And this kind of takes you right back to the beginning of the process. And that is, how do you hire people? How do you sift out people that are a good fit for your culture, for your business, for your clients and your vendors, right? They have to be able to fit within everything that you embody. And if they're not a fit, that they'd have to be open to being coached and developed.
So that's how you filter. So what's your ideal client to coach and develop? And what's your client that you don't really want to coach or develop?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. So people that kind of want to get advice from you, what's the ideal person that you would want to work with you, to learn from you? And what's the ideal person you want?
Yes. Yeah. For me to learn from me. I mean, somebody that is open-minded, that isn't a person that's going to poke holes in every single thing that is presented. Being open to learning and being coached is really important. It's not worth their time, money, or energy if they're not, right? Someone that's goal-oriented, someone that is creative, that is excited about what they're doing. Those things bring me great joy. If you have like a business you inherited from your family and you dread it every day and you don't stand up for what the product or service is, it's probably not a good fit.
So it's more about the character of the individual. Okay. Wow. So in your eyes, character tends to play the biggest role in who becomes successful in this entrepreneurship world.
I mean, success is rated so differently by so many different people.
Of course.
But I think character definitely has a big part in someone's full circle's success. So their own life, their business, their family, that kind of a thing.
You also won an award for Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses, right?
It's not an award. It was a course that I got to take. I was accepted into the program, and that felt great. That was amazing. That was a good start to my higher education learning. I mean, I went to college on a violin scholarship when I was younger. I never got a degree, and I never needed one or wanted one. It wasn't super important to me. But being accepted into that program was really, it surprised me at that time, but I felt so proud and honored that I made the cut.
What did you learn in that program?
I started to learn the foundation of, that's the program that was at Babson College. I started to really learn the foundation. Some of the foundation I had in my business by guessing and by my own imagination and maybe, reading blogs or listening to podcasts. But at that program, I really was able to lay down a great foundation for the business.
Okay, and that's foundation.
It was a 3-month program.
Oh, nice, nice. And that foundation was the thing that you sort of stand for, the expanding and kind of growing of scale businesses.
I mean, you can't scale and grow a business until you learn the foundations, the the bedrock, the core things that you have to do in a business. And again, I had already had some of these in place, but not all of them. And so I learned how to really get them all going, all cylinders firing, and then I could explode.
Oh, okay. So what are those foundations?
Well, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning, right? Core values, customer value proposition, hiring, firing, systems, processes, pricing, the psychology of how people buy, and what kind of a buyer are you? That's the kind of seller or salesperson you are. So branding, the difference between branding, advertising, marketing, all that stuff.
So with your clients, do you mainly teach people the foundations, or is it more focused on the expansion and the scaling?
Well, in the program that I teach, I have to go over the foundation again because you may not have all of it.
Okay.
Right. When I started in 2015, if you would have asked me about my P&L, my cash, my AR, AP, reading financial documents, that would have been a really hard conversation for me. And now I can talk to any CPA, CFO, business, numbers person. Not that I know as much as a CPA or CFO, but I can have a very intelligent conversation. And I couldn't do that before I learned that. So if in the course of taking my course, you need to brush up on that or learn it from scratch, that's an opportunity for you to do that there.
Okay. Wow, that's quite interesting, because initially when I saw you, I thought you were just only focused on expansion, but you teach people the foundation as well. So you do both. Okay.
Yep.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, but I'm not working with brand new entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or people that have an idea or just started a business, right? I'm not the person for that. I might be the person to mentor those people or give them some experience shares here and there. But I'm not a specialist in helping new entrepreneurs get their idea up and running.
So these ideal clients that you want, it's not just character, but they also need to have somewhat of an understanding of what entrepreneurship is too.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I start with a $250,000 annual recurring revenue baseline. So if you're not there yet, taking the course might be premature. And somebody else is probably a better fit to help you learn.
Well, that's important to know. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Okay, so there's a skill set level and character you need. So it's two things you need. Okay. Excellent. And you sort of began to study business at Harvard as well?
I did an entrepreneurial master's course there at the Harvard Business School in 2019. It kicked my butt. It was really hard, really hard. It was a kind of learning that I am not as well suited for. And they use the case study method where you have to read 2 to 12 pages or more of 28 different businesses, case studies before you get to class, and then talk about it with 95 students that are all entrepreneurs and these amazing professors at Harvard Business School. It hurt my brain. I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong, but I was challenged, which was, it's a good thing. But, you're learning about businesses that might not be terribly exciting or interesting to you. And there may be big chunks of the case studies that aren't relevant to what you want to learn, even though you should learn and know a lot about, or a little bit about everything. It was, again, a great experience, but one of the harder that I've had.
Oh, okay. And it was tougher than the 10,000 small
Oh
businesses.
yeah.
Okay.
You have to be at a much higher level to be in this program than the 10,000 small businesses program. And if I didn't have that first program under my belt, I would have been completely lost at the Harvard program.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite a few years later. So I was also more mature. I had more experience under my belt.
When you talk about maturity and experience, we're kind of going back a bit. That's sort of when we go back to your character and sort of the experience you had, fighting to grow your first business, right? The production business. Or is that something different with experience?
Well, I mean, you have to have, for me at the Harvard program, if I did not have the experience of going to the Babson 10,000 small businesses, I would have been lost. It would have almost been like gibberish.
Okay.
Right? I wouldn't have the language. I wouldn't have had the experience. I wouldn't have had the successes. I might have been able to absorb like 10 or 15% of what was being taught and understand it. Versus I was there, I probably got honestly about 80, 85%.
Okay. So this sort of helped to build your foundation even more, right?
Yeah, and gave me new ideas and showed me the insides of very big and very successful businesses, whether they were a household name or not, and how they function and how they dealt with challenges. And we as a class got to sort of raise our hand and discuss when there was a pivotal moment in somebody's business. What should they do? Should they do this or should they do this? And we would all debate. What we didn't know in the first case study that we did was that we would get the answer of what that company actually did and what the outcome was of their actions. So that was really fun. So we're like pitted against each other. Everybody thinks they're definitely right. And one time, one of the owners of the business that was in the case study that we were arguing was in the room with us. So half the students are tearing apart his decision, and half the students are like, no, this is a great idea. I think they're going to make millions. And, then he gets up and he says what his decision was and what the outcomes were from it. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And why don't we take a quick look at do you have a website? You have a website, right?
I have a few.
Excellent. So let's take a glance at your website.
So it's entireproductions.com is my core business. And I don't know, are you wanting me to share it or are you going to pull it up?
No, I have a team that handles that. Yeah. So
team. That's my personal brand website. That's officialnatashamiller.com. And that is really for the things that we're talking about, teaching. I am also a keynote speaker. I do an experiential keynote performance. The podcast is on there. And then, of course, my book is there. And various events that I speak at or perform at is there. There's a blog post for everybody to read, sort of distilled instances of the podcasts. And actually, the trailer for my book, I see the play button is really cool. If you felt like playing that, I don't know how much time we have, but it's pretty cool. If you could put the sound on, it has a soundtrack to it.
This is a story you've never heard before. A story of hope in the face of despair, of success in spite of all the obstacles, of grit and tenacity. And it's all true. This is a blistering account of one woman's incredible journey. From a young girl forced out of her home by her mother's threats, taken to a youth shelter on Christmas night, to redefining her life on her own terms by pursuing her dreams and talents, playing on some of the biggest stages in the world, and building a multi-million-dollar business from the ground up. She was too young to do it all alone, yet took the steps to make it on her own. This is a story that proves it's not enough to be resilient. You've got to be relentless, by Natasha Miller. Homeless teen to achieving the entrepreneur dream. A memoir you won't be able to put down. Get your copy today. Be relentless.
I think making this about yourself really did help to push it to the next level. It gives it more of a personal tone.
Yeah. I had a company help me with this trailer, and they had given me like 8 or 9 voiceover actors, their sample, and none of them, I didn't like any of them. And I've done voiceover and commercials and jingles before. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to voice it myself. And that's a track from my first record called Her Life that's playing underneath the video.
Well, that is very interesting, yes. So we now get into speaking, podcast, events. Which one of these, and I think even that one there, I think it says blog, I think. How many of, which is the first thing that you would want people to look at when they get on your website?
You know, right now, the book is giving me such great life. It's really making an impact on the people that are reading it or listening to it. The feedback I'm getting from people, you know, it's filling me up, but I know that I'm doing something for the world, that, you know, giving people a voice for things that they were embarrassed or humiliated by. A guy, an entrepreneur in Colorado wrote, "This is the book I wish I had the courage to write." So that's really what my focus is right now.
Okay. And so I think we've covered everything mainly that should be on the website, right?
Yeah, everything's on the website. It's chock full.
Okay, great. So what's the future?
I don't know. I'm so tired, but I always have so many ideas, and I'm always working all of them at the same time. I think in the next 10 years, I'll do a lot more teaching, coaching. It's sort of my way of giving back. I'll do a lot more of experiential keynotes. I don't want to make a living on the road 250 days out of the year doing that. I want to do, you know, really important ones. I'll probably write another book about scaling and growth. Beyond that, I don't even want to look yet.
Why don't you want to look? Future seems bright for you.
Oh yeah, no, it's very bright, but I am someone who really enjoys what I'm doing. I love all the points up to launching something. And right now my life is so full with the podcast, the book, speaking, teaching, running my other core business. All right, I'll admit to you. One of the things that I was able to present at the Harvard Business School was my own case study for the system that I built for Entire Productions that enabled us to produce 777 events in 1 year with 2 people in operations. So it is a business model that I could create a SaaS company from to help other companies like mine and companies in the event production space use to be so much more efficient in their businesses. And nobody has it. Nobody has it. So, and we're completely paperless and have been since 2015. So if you go into a hotel sales office for their events, for weddings and conferences, you're going to see racks and racks and racks of file folders with paper in it. We do 777 events in 1 year with no racks, no papers, and a lot of automation and very specific systems. So, okay, that could be it. That could be the next thing I work on. Thanks a lot for adding another thing to my plate.
Excellent. No issue. So if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would you say to her?
Yeah, I'm asked this question a lot, and I just keep coming back to this. This is the one thing. This is specific to me and my story, right? Is no one's coming to save you. You know, there'll be people that'll help along the way and be kind to you. No one's going to come and save you from your circumstance, but you probably have it within you to save yourself.
Excellent. And may not be probably, you do, because you're here now, right?
Yeah.
Great. Well, this interview really has been a privilege. You know, are there any, final standing words you'd like to say to the audience?
I mean, if you're inspired by this, just keep up the energy that you get from this interview, and just attack your dreams and goals, and don't let anything get in the way. If something gets in the way, brush it aside and keep moving.
All right. Thank you again, Natasha.
Thank you so much.
All right. So a few quick shout outs. Six Figure University. This is run by Kemiana Jones Bay, Anna Jones Bay. They're basically focused on helping people build real estate businesses and start their own salons. So if you want to learn how to start your own real estate business or get into real estate and start making your six figures, get in touch with these people. Next person is Judy Ryan. Judy Ryan is basically our affiliate and collaborative partner. She focuses on helping companies kind of build a much more kinder and more focused work culture, and kind of improving their company culture and to grow their businesses as a whole. Very interesting group as well. And again, subscribe now. We are currently growing quite well at subscribers, so keep up the good work. Thank you for subscribing. And this will also be on our website. We're a full-on TV channel, so look at us there as well. Roku TV, this will be everywhere, Spotify, so check us out there. Thank you again. This is Jimbo. This is the Jimbo Paris Show. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for listening to the Jimbo Paris Show.